What's up, everybody? Isaac here, Civil Engineering Academy. Excited to be with you on another podcast episode. Today I have a special guest, a previous student of our course, who details his journey into taking the Civil PE exam. He has some great tips for people. It is Alex Kuhn, and he is working on some fabulous projects. I think they're amazing projects that are actually in New York City. A tunneling project, geotechnical projects, working on high-rise. I mean, these are like the pinnacle of civil engineering projects, I think, that people want to be a part of. And he's a construction manager over there overseeing some of these awesome projects. So we dive into that, talk about the stuff he's working on, but we also tack on his journey to pass his PE exam. He is a student of the Ultimate Civil PE Review course, which is the program we offer for those taking the PE exam. If you're interested in checking that out, go to civilpereviewcourse.com, or you can find it through our main website, civilengineeringacademy.com. You can get all the good stuff. And, we lay it all out there. It's a fun course for people that make it fit for their schedule. So if you need that, it's there for you. Definitely check that out. Anyway, that's enough about that. Let's get to our conversation with Alex so you can hear about his own journey and the cool projects he's working on. It's coming up right after this. All right, what is going on, Alex? Thanks for jumping on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast.
Good to be here.
You look official over there, Alex.
Yep.
On site, doing his thing.
Yep.
You're working on a big project over there, so we might as well just dive into that a little bit. What do you do for a living? What's going on where you're at?
I work at a consulting firm, and we're working on a tunneling project in New York City right now for the water department. We're building a 750-foot shaft in Queens, and we're about
That's deep.
We're about 2 years in, and it sounds like we got another maybe 6 years to go. So it's a big project.
Can you share why is it 750 feet?
Great question.
What's the purpose behind that?
The answer is for the seismic load. There's 3 water tunnels in New York City, and people are nervous that the first one was built 100 years ago, and maybe it needs to be fixed up a little bit, or maybe not as durable as they thought it was. And then, so the second one delivers most of the water to New York, and then this third one is a backup in case of any large natural disaster. So it's much larger and stronger than the other 2 water sources.
That's amazing, man. That's cool engineering going on there.
Yeah.
And what is your role within that whole project?
I'm working on the construction management side. Underneath the resident engineer. So I'm the site and tunneling inspector. So I'm really out there in the field every day. And then we have an office here, and I'm doing some red line work of some as-built drawings and just general construction management over the project.
That's awesome. So I'm assuming this may be one of your favorite projects you've ever worked on. It sounds very unique.
Yeah, I've done a couple of high rises that I thought were really cool. But this one really takes the cake for maybe the most extreme, or has the most amount of special details that you wouldn't get to experience on other projects.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would venture to say that most engineers probably don't get to experience something of that magnitude, or even high rises up to a certain level, really. So you've got some unique experience there.
Yeah, well, I did 2 high rises in Kansas City, and they were 25 stories. And when I moved to New York, they told me that 25 stories is not a high rise.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's a low rise.
Yeah, pretty big for Kansas City. Kind of your average run-of-the-mill building in New York.
That's awesome. Well, let's back up, I guess, a little bit, and let's talk about how you found yourself into this world of civil engineering. Why was this a route that you think you ended up in?
Yeah, so I have a background in geotech.
Okay.
And when I started geotech, it just kind of felt like I wasn't sure what type of civil I wanted. I knew I liked construction and civil, and I fell into geotech. And then looking back, growing up, I was obsessed with rocks and getting dirty and stuff. And so it felt like I just kind of fell into it. And then when I look back, I realized that it's something I've been interested in my whole life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Loving the rocks, loving the dirt.
Yeah.
That's what you love.
Right.
Well, that's exciting. That's kind of how we find ourselves into areas that we gravitate to. So we've talked about some of your favorite projects. It sounds like you're working on some really cool stuff. I guess within those projects, what has been your favorite part, I guess, of maybe being a civil engineer?
I mean, I think everyone likes watching the project come together. When you're in the field, you really see it's more than a stack of drawings or reports. You can see the whole project go together. From an engineering standpoint, or maybe a specific detail would be I did a 3-mile tunnel in Long Island at the beginning of the pandemic, and when the tunnel boring machine needs air, right? Because there's 12 guys working on it, and there's a specific volume of airflow for safety reasons and to keep everyone working. And the longer the tunnel gets, the airline has to keep on delivering that volume of air, and it's more difficult. You need more power because of the friction that goes through it's called a bag line. It's like a cloth tube that pushes air into the TBM. And because it's like this plastic tarp material, if you up the pressure, then that tube is going to go from being, 2-foot diameter to 3-foot diameter. And when you're building a tunnel, that can become a lot of space. And towards the end of this tunnel, when we were 3 miles in, this tube had become like 4 feet in diameter. And there's a train. A train delivers the guys to the tunnel machine and delivers segments and equipment. And they had to do the calculation before they even started to make sure that the train would be able to fit underneath the airline at the end of the tunnel after they had upped the pressure to continue circulating air. And the forward thought in this of how much is this bag line going to expand, how much, what's the rate of, I think it's like cubic feet per minute of air these guys are going to need, and how much room we have to play with, so they can make sure they ordered a train that was only a certain height so they would be able to fit in the tunnel the entire time. And that level of detail I just find fascinating about projects.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I know I've never done anything like that in my world of civil engineering, but why do they have to use a bag line that's made out of cloth? Why couldn't they use something more fixed?
Well, I guess that I would say that it would be time and cost. That the bag line, they come
just easier.
They come in packs of 500 foot at a time, and it almost has no downtime. And
Gotcha.
downtime is money. And so if they were constantly installing in steel, that would maybe be a little bit more expensive.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, details.
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
Well, let's man, that sounds you're working on all kinds of cool stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I shoot for.
Let's dive into your journey to pass the PE exam.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
I had some struggles, definitely, in the beginning, and so I qualified to sit for the exam in 2017, and I ended up taking it in 2021. So, so
A little bit of a gap there.
yeah, 4 year gap. I signed up for it, and then life came at me, and I ended up moving to a different state with a different job. I had children, and it just kept on feeling like I didn't have time to study. Some my bosses would tell me, if you want to pass the exam, you need to study you need to study 3 hours a night for 6 months, plus 8 hours on the weekends. And I could never find that level of time. And I just kept on.
Especially in like construction management. Where do you how do you do that?
Yeah. And I eventually I decided, I can't find the time. I'll never find the time. I'm just going to give it what I can and see what happens. I have to sit for this exam. And so I pushed it off for 4 years. I finally signed up for Civil Engineering Academy and took it.
Got it done.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. I think there's a lot of people in the same shoes as you where they're struggling to find the time to make this thing work, especially if they're doing construction management or they're out in the field frequently.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you do that? How did you manage that? Where did you find the hours, I guess? Were you doing it at night? Were you doing it in the morning? Were you just taking a lunch break? How'd that work?
I tried to think about the exam like it was a marathon, where I'm really into cycling, so maybe marathon's not the best idea. I'm into cycling. I do a lot of big rides, like 100-mile bike rides. And if I want to do, let's say I want to do a bike ride at the end of August, at the end of the summer, I'll plan it out, 3 or 4 months early and start kind of a training plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't just get on my bike and ride 100 miles, but if I prepare and I practice beforehand, then I can. And that's kind of how I thought about the exam, where I'm not going to be able to just jump in and study for 8 hours straight or even every night. I'm going to have to study twice a week, or maybe study for an hour. And if I get discouraged, just put it down and come back tomorrow. I don't need to wear myself out every time I sit down and study.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Did you find that you had to reschedule stuff at all? Or did you ever kick the exam down the road when you had already previously registered for it?
I registered for the exam 3 times, and I rescheduled it twice, and then I sat for it on the 3rd time.
Okay.
And I had tried other online courses that just really weren't a good fit for me. And then the 3rd time that I had signed up for it, that was when I took the Civil Engineering Academy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you discover Civil Engineering Academy? How did you discover us?
I Googled around and kind of just went with my gut on what seemed approachable to me, and this is the one I went.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We try to be approachable.
Right.
I try to make it a little lighthearted. Engineering's already kind of a serious topic, so we try to have some fun. But I'm glad you discovered us. You avoided all the bad reviews. I'm just kidding. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm excited that you found us.
Yeah.
How did when you say it worked for you, what worked well for you? What was it that this is gonna work for me?
I think that you're a very approachable guy, which kind of made me feel a little relaxed when I was going through the courses. Other courses that I had taken, it kind of was like for professors, which maybe brought back some rough years quality, of the professors being a little bit more aggressive or negative or something. And I think staying positive and being relaxed helped out a lot. Um, Also, your concept of knock the first half out of the park, and then if you can do that, you're probably going to do pretty good on the second part too. Uh, I don't know. I, I just decided to believe you on that one and go with it. And I took that to heart, and it really worked out well for
Awesome.
me.
Yeah, we preach that, and this comes from my own experience. I'm a repeat taker.
Yeah.
I knew the challenge of passing this exam, and those AM questions are just way easier for you. Those general questions are just way easier. So if you can knock those out,
Right.
crush those questions, a
True.
huge burden will be lifted off your shoulders for the afternoon. I mean, you could virtually only need to get half right if you really crush those morning ones. So, and those afternoon ones can be they can be a doozy. So, what depth exam did you go into?
I ended up going with construction. I have I have about 50% of my experience in construction and 50% of my experience in geotech. And I had previously signed up for the geotech depth and studied for the geotech depth.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept on getting bogged down on, super complex Moore's circle type problems. And I was having difficulty seeing the forest through the trees,
Yeah.
And by the time I took it, I hadn't done serious geotech work in about 18 months, 2 years. And I thought, why not just take the construction? That's what I'm doing right now. It's what I have 50% of my experience in. So that's what I ended up going with.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What, I guess, could you share any tips with anyone that was taking construction? Like, what was a surprise on the exam? What helped you for that particular depth exam?
Well, something that always would kind of bog me down is I might do 3 or 4 problems really easy, and then I would hit one problem when I was practicing that it might take me 45 minutes to do that one problem. And when I started studying, I didn't want to just finish the problem. I wanted to completely understand why that was the answer, what happened. I wanted to know it so that when I came back to it, I would feel a little bit more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these bigger problems, I would get stuck on for like 2 hours trying to really understand the theory behind it. And something that kind of helped me is realizing that people that write this exam are people too, right? That there's going to be a problem on the exam that is going to be poorly written, or it's going to be, maybe they thought it was going to be a tough problem and they ended up writing an extremely tough problem on accident or something. Then you're going to have, I'm going to say at least two problems that were poorly conceptualized, and you just need to accept that and find those problems and skip those problems.
I agree. Yeah. You're gonna run across a couple of those ones for sure. That's good advice.
And taking your course, you outlined a lot of the problems that we're going to encounter, and I already knew that through the course, there's some problems are a 2-minute problem, and other problems, even if it's a well-written problem, is still going to be a 10-minute problem. And if I can look at that and say, oh, that's going to be a toughie, circle it, move on, come back to it later. Get all those 1 minute, 2-minute problems out of the way, and then come back and start hitting the hard problems.
It's good advice. Did theory stuff surprise you? People have always said they're blown away by how much theory's on the exam. And, would you have any tips for someone that is in those shoes? They're like, geez, there's so much theory. How do you prepare for that?
Right. Yeah. I had maybe a problem with confidence in myself.
Okay.
And just realizing that I have the experience. I have been practicing engineering, and this test was made for me. It wasn't made to confuse me. It was made for me. So when I got to those problems, they really weren't an issue for me. I think that I just went with my gut on them and just tried to answer them the best I could. I guess I wish I had a better answer on how to study for them.
No, I don't think there's an easy, there's not a great answer for that because it's even tests. I mean, we provide a course. How do you prepare someone for theory questions? They're almost infinite. A textbook could all be theory questions. So, you give people a flavor of what can be asked, and at the end of the day, you're going to use your best engineering judgment to read through the problem and try to select something that you can reason out and figure out. So, no, there's no right or wrong there. I just wanted to kind of get your take on those.
Yeah. Everyone says do the practice problems over and over. And I did find that when I was doing practice problems, I would get a gut feeling about them, even not just the theoretical ones, but even the ones that were calculations that, let's say your answer was 100 and in your mind you were thinking, I thought the answer was going to be like 5 and I got 100. Like, that can't be right, and just going with what you think. And if it felt good, it probably was good. And if it felt wrong, double check yourself. And that same judgment, I think, is what I was using in the theory problem.
That's awesome. Well, is there anything else about the Ultimate Civil PE Review course that you found that was helpful to you?
I liked all of the material that I could download. And, I started off I'd studied for 3 months. The first month, I studied 2 to 3 nights a week for an hour or two. And as soon as I felt tired, sleep is going to help me more than another hour of studying. And I just went to bed. And then the second month, I was studying 4 to 5 nights a week. And then the month before the exam, I was pretty deep in it by then. And I was studying 6 nights a week, and I was bringing a pad of paper to work and just doing the questions without the study guide for maybe an hour in the middle of the day or something. And I was really trying to pack in studying by that point. I guess the exam it's computer based. So
it is.
When I took it, it was in a book. It was pencil and paper. So I don't know.
A little bit different these days, but still, that's okay. It kind of translates still, to be very fairly similar to the paper-based exam too. Engineering doesn't change that much. That's awesome. Well, you mentioned that you've spread the word a little bit about Civil Engineering Academy, maybe to some coworkers and stuff. And we definitely appreciate it. That's pretty awesome. So, we're always aiming to try to spread the word of the courses that we have and some of the resources that we have available to people, even our free stuff, which is definitely on YouTube, and offer a bunch of stuff there as well. Is there any other tips, Alex, that you would share with anyone preparing for this exam that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, I would say start off slow, believe in yourself, and, just take it one step at a time. If you're looking at the book, if you have a CERM with you, how many pages are in that book? Maybe 800 or something. It's huge, right?
Yes.
When you start tabbing it out and you go through the sections, you realize it's like 10 pages of that book that are really important. Not the whole thing. And so realizing that I don't have to memorize all the pages, and it's really just a couple of sections in there that are going to be the meat and potatoes of the test, I think that made it a lot more manageable, right?
That's true. And even now with the CBT exam, they've got their own handbook. So, getting to know that handbook is really kind of where people's focus is on now. I still think the CERM is a valuable tool because it will teach you, you can read up on stuff and
Right.
you can compare how they write an equation versus the way the NCES writes an equation in their handbook.
Yeah.
But, hopefully all of that stuff has been distilled down to this reference manual where you
Right.
can kind of search for that really quickly. But definitely a good tip there.
Right.
Cool. Anything else?
Maybe the vocabulary they use in the tests, right? Construction, the words we use change from state to region. And it might
Oh,
be,
yeah.
you might call it a sheep's foot ruler in one state and something else in a different state. And learning what is the jargon that the test is going to use.
Or even, I would even add, how does the NCES even draw figures? Like the way they present information can sometimes take people what did they draw? Like how
Right.
is,
Right.
you're so used to something that can be very clear and understandable. And all of a sudden on the exam, they throw something in and you're just kind of like, what the heck is this thing they drew out?
Yeah, catching. So on my exam, there was this question that was about. They said that you wanted to design the arc on the back of a baseball field, and the way the project, or the way the question was phrased, was exactly like a vertical curve in a highway design.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of felt like they were trying to throw you off talking about a baseball diamond or whatever, and it was vertical curve design of a highway.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so catching that, I was like, wait, the way the points they're giving me and what they're asking me for is actually this part of what they're asking about. They won't care about baseball.
They don't care about baseball.
Right.
Yep. Just a little mind bender there. So
Right.
yeah, you got to be aware of those. That they kind of creep up, have nothing to do with the problem. Sometimes they'll even add, maybe a variable or something, or a little piece of information that you need to filter out because it's really not part of solving the problem sometimes. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
anyway, well, those are great tips. If anybody's interested, definitely check us out, civilengineeringacademy.com. You can go check out our course, the Ultimate Civil PE Review course there, or you go straight to the website, which is called civilpereviewcourse.com. Anything else about the course that you find that was helpful to you, Alex, you'd recommend to anybody else out there?
I think I covered it. I think it's a great course. I like the way it's set up, and I like the pace. It's a good pace.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this. If anybody wants to reach out to you and maybe they had questions about taking construction, or even maybe they're interested in going in the field that you're in, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, feel free. I have a LinkedIn. It's Alex Kuhn, Kuhn, on LinkedIn. And feel free to reach out whenever you want.
Perfect. Alex, thank you for doing this with us. I appreciate you jumping on and sharing your experience taking the PE. Everybody's journey is different, and I totally get that. I'm a repeat taker. Alex, you passed it, first time?
I passed the first time.
Took a little bit.
Spent 4 years waffling on if I should take it.
There you go. So
Yeah.
everyone's journey is a little different, but you can get there. I promise you can. Half of it is that mental game. And, I appreciate Alex touching on that too. So, Alex, thanks for doing this. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
All right. See ya.
Yeah.